That's what makes America work.
Congressman Paul, does faith have a role in these public issues, the public square, or is it a personal issue at your home and in your church?
I think faith has something to do with the character of the people who represent us. And law should have a moral fiber to it, and our leaders should. We shouldn't expect us to try to change morality. You can't teach people how to be moral. But the Constitution addresses this by saying, literally it says no theocracy, but it doesn't talk about church and state. The most important thing is the First Amendment. The Congress shall write no laws, which means Congress should never prohibit the expression of your Christian faith in a public place.
Okay, great. Let's get down. Josh McKelvin, let's continue the conversation.
Thank you. Good job. While we're on the topic of faith and religion, the next question goes to Mr. Kaine. You recently said you would not appoint a Muslim to your cabinet, then you kind of backed off that a little bit and said that you would first want to know if they are committed to the Constitution. You expressed concern that, quote, a lot of Muslims are not totally dedicated to this country. Are American Muslims as a group less committed to the Constitution than, say, Christians or Jews?
First, the statement was, would I be comfortable with a Muslim in my administration? Not that I wouldn't appoint one. That's the exact transcript. And I would not be comfortable because you have peaceful Muslims and then you have militant Muslims, those that are trying to kill us. And so when I said I wouldn't be comfortable, I was thinking about the ones that are trying to kill us, number one. Secondly, yes, I do not believe in Sharia law in American courts. I believe in American laws in American courts, period. There have been instances in New Jersey. There was an instance in Oklahoma where Muslims did try to influence court decisions with Sharia law. I was simply saying very emphatically, American laws in American courts.
So on that point, Governor Romney, let me come to you with this. On that point, what Mr. Kaine is saying that he would have, what my term, not his, a purity test or a loyalty test. He would want to ask a Muslim a question or a few questions before he hired them, but he wouldn't ask those questions of a Christian or a Jew.
Sorry, no, you are restating something that I did not say, okay? If I may, okay?
Please, let's make it clear.
When you interview a person for a job, you look at their work record, you look at their resume, and then you have a one-on-one personal interview. During that personal interview, like in the business world or anywhere else, you are able to get a feeling for how committed that person is to the Constitution, how committed they are to the mission of the organization.
But when I asked you this question the other night, though, you said that you would want to ask a Muslim those questions, but you didn't think you would have to ask them to a Christian or a Jew.
I would ask certain questions, John, and it's not a litmus test. It is simply trying to make sure that we have people committed to the Constitution first in order for them to work effectively in the administration.
Should one segment, Governor Romney, one segment of Americans, in this case religion, but in any case, should one segment be singled out, treated differently?
Well, but first of all, of course, we're not going to have Sharia law applied in U.S. courts. That's never going to happen. We have a Constitution. We follow the law. No, I think we recognize that the people of all faiths are welcome in this country. Our nation was founded on a principle of religious tolerance. It's in fact why some of the early patriots came to this country. And we treat people with respect regardless of their religious persuasion. Obviously, anybody who would come into my administration would be someone who I knew, who I was comfortable with, and who I believed would honor as their highest oath, their oath to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States.
Mr. Speaker, go ahead.
I just want to comment for a second. You know, the Pakistani who immigrated to the U.S., became a citizen, built a car bomb, which luckily failed to go off in Times Square, was asked by the federal judge, how could he have done that when he signed and when he swore an oath to the United States? And he looked at the judge and he said, you're my enemy. I lied. Now, I just want to go out on a limb here. I am in favor of saying to people, if you're not prepared to be loyal to the United States, you will not serve in my administration, period.
Amen.
All right,
and we did this in dealing with the Nazis, and we did this in dealing with the communists, and it was controversial both times. And both times we discovered after a while, you know, there are some genuinely bad people who would like to infiltrate our country, and we have got to have the guts to stand up and say no.
All right, we're going to work in another break. Still a lot more ground to cover with our 7 Republican candidates for president today. Voters here in New Hampshire asking the questions. You can help us at home on Facebook and on Twitter. Please send in your suggestions. In and out of every break, we're asking a candidate more of a personal question, this or that, to make a choice. Mr. Kaine, deep dish or thin crust?
Deep dish.
We're in the closing moments of our Republican presidential debate here on the St. Anselm College campus, Manchester, New Hampshire. Time flies when you're having fun. One last segment with the candidates, and let's kick it off by going down on the floor. WMUR's Jennifer Vaughn.
Thank you, John. Hi, Mr. Kane. This one's for you. Public opinion polls consistently result in low approval ratings for Congress as a whole, and early polls show a lack of enthusiasm for this field of candidates. Most of you will say that you don't watch polls, but shouldn't you pay attention to public sentiment? And aren't these polls a direct reflection of what voters are and are not looking for?
Yes, I happen to believe that the polls do represent a barometer because it's way too early. Secondly, probably a lot of the people don't know us yet because it's still real early in the process. So as people get to know us more and more, I think they're going to find that this really is a good field of candidates, at least in my opinion. But the people that know the most about everybody up here, they don't see this as a weak field, and neither do I.
All right. It is likely that the Republican nominee for president is standing on this stage tonight. If you win the nomination, you'll have to make the choice that a nominee makes, and that is picking a running mate. Governor Pawlenty, to you. Look back on 2008 and the process. President Obama made a pick. Senator McCain made a pick. Who made the best choice?
Senator Biden has been wrong about every major strategic decision in the modern history of the international conflict and military. Look at his judgment about partitioning Iraq, for example. You know, now we have Iraq being probably one of the shining examples of success in the Middle East. If Vice President Biden would have had his way, we would have had a partitioned Iraq and probably more mayhem in the Middle East. I think Governor Palin's a remarkable leader. I think she's qualified to be President of the United States. I think she's equally as qualified or more qualified and would have been as strong of a president as Joe Biden. He's wrong on everything.
Go ahead, Governor.
John, any one of the people on this stage would be a better president than President Obama. He has failed in job one, which was to get this economy going again. He failed in job two, which is to restrain the growth of government. And he failed in job three, which is to have a coherent, consistent foreign policy. We've had presidents in the past that had bad foreign policies. This is the first time we've had a president that doesn't have a foreign policy. And this hit-or-miss approach has met a couple of successes, like getting Osama bin Laden, congratulations, but a lot of misses, like throwing our friends under the bus. And that's why any one of these people who gets better known by the American people will serve as a president with distinction over the future.
If that is you, if there is a President Bachmann, and you are only allowed to hire one of the candidates on this stage, which one would it be and why?
Don't choose the old guys.
Oh, well, maybe we'll have to have an American Idol contest and go from there. There we go. We'll let the audience decide.
Let the audience decide, Congressman Paul. If you were the President of the United States and you could pick one, but just one of these gentlemen and the lady to join your administration, who would it be and why?
To join the administration?
Yes.
Well, I would think everybody would qualify as...
You only get to pick one. It's about choices.
I have to pick one. Well, let me look them over. I would have to do a bit more quizzing. I would have to check.
Fair.
They haven't even told me how they feel about the Federal Reserve yet. They haven't told me about a non-intervention foreign policy. So I'll have to do some more quizzing.
We're down to our last minute. I want to try to get to everybody. I want to start with you, Senator Santorum. What have you learned in the last 2 hours?
I think that what Herman said, we got a great field of candidates. I was very impressed by what I heard. I hope everybody else was. These are folks that answered the questions that were asked of them and did it very directly.
In the last 2 hours, I've learned more about the goodness of the American people. From the question from John, his 3 sons that are serving in the Navy, his wonderful service. Everyone who asked a question this evening
Mr. Speaker,
is
I'm sorry, I need to
talking
move it
about
along.
liberty.
I don't mean to interrupt, especially when you're doing that tribute.
Look, I just think once again New Hampshire is proving why it's first in the nation as a primary, because the question is so good.
Governor?
And New Hampshire is proving that the issue people care most about is getting this economy growing again so that we can have rising housing prices again. People can have the kind of incomes they deserve. They don't have to wonder whether the future is brighter than the past.
Congressman?
People in New Hampshire love the future.
Well, I've learned that with a group here that disagrees on some issues, we can talk about it and be civil to each other.
Governor?
I learned that if you trust the people, our future is bright. And I learned that the Boston Bruins have more heart than the Vancouver Canucks.
Mr. Kaine.
What I've learned is that all of these candidates up here share one thing in common, and that is it's not about us. It's about the children and the grandchildren. We're not that far apart on all of the big issues.
I want to thank all 7 of our candidates tonight. I want to thank the union leader, WMUR, and St. Anselm College for having us. We have a feisty campaign to come. Please pay attention at home. I want to thank everybody here. I'm John King. I'll see you tomorrow on John King USA. Anderson Cooper continues our coverage, post-debate analysis.